It is time for our AM Minnesota show. Now, normally on a Monday, you do not hear the voice of Faribault Police Chief John Sherwin. But because last Thursday he had a much more important thing to do than to visit with me, he's gracious enough to come in on a Monday. You like Mondays?
Do I like Mondays?
Yeah. I'm assuming you have Sundays off.
Yeah. I'm off the weekend, so Monday. Monday is Monday. I probably like Mondays better than I like the end of a Sunday night when you know you're going to work the next day.
There you go.
So Monday itself is just doing it. The hardest part on Monday is getting up, and then once you do that, it's all downhill. So.
Crime statistics, would it show that you have more crime on a weekend than you do during the week?
Well, certainly we have more call volume on the weekend when there's more people out and about and, people are off and just more eyes on the street. We get more calls. Crime per se, it all depends on the day. Our crime is very, I would say it's probably not super consistent in that it happens at certain times in certain places. It's really depends on opportunity and, anytime. It could happen at any time, but I wouldn't say that there is even more. There isn't even one day that's particularly dangerous or anything like that. So, but certainly call volume tends to be busier in the afternoons and the evenings, and certainly more toward the end of the week.
So Monday is not less dangerous than Friday?
I wouldn't say so, no. Certainly from that perspective.
I was looking on your website.
10,162
10,162 police calls to date.
This year?
That's about 59 a day. I didn't include today on that number, by the way.
Okay. I'll take your word on the math.
59 a day. Okay. Oh, my calculator did it, not me.
Okay.
562 in the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Does that sound
that sounds about right. I mean, those are all incidents. That's not necessarily crime, Actually, very little of what we do is crime related, which is kind of the I don't want to say the dirty secret, but that's the secret of policing. Like, most of what police officers do is not respond to crime. They respond to complaints or incidents or things that may be crimes, but they're generally not, a burglary or, the percentage of incidents that are crimes are very small.
Which is good news, right?
A couple of percent. Yes. Yeah, it's good news, right? But if you think about it, in Faribault, 25,000 people, I think I couldn't tell you offhand. Last year we may have had, our burglaries. You think of burglary, like that's something that people would get very concerned about. If your house was burglarized, you would be, it would be invasive. It would make you feel victimized. It would make you feel vulnerable. During my time here, I think our burglaries average about 30 a year. And you said we've had how many calls so far? 10,000?
162. Yeah.
So we're almost halfway through the year. So, and I couldn't tell you offhand. I could look it up. I could tell people where to look up our crime stats through the Minnesota Crime Data Explorer website. And you can see a real-time snapshot and picture of what our crime statistics look like for the year. But we may have had a dozen burglaries so far this year. So when you look at the percentage, it's a fraction of 1% of that type of incident, something that we should be concerned about, and I'm concerned about every burglary, right? But when we think about crime and keeping people safe, we just don't have a lot of crime. Sometimes I'll put out the city puts out a monthly publication where they summarize, different departments and what's going on within the community. And I'll often look at crime rate and evaluate our crime rate and compare it to other communities of similar size. And through the first quarter of this year, our crime rate was amongst the lowest of cities of our size in Minnesota. and that includes Owatonna and Northfield, very close crime statistics to or crime rate to Northfield, and much safer than communities like Red Wing, Winona, Austin, Wilmer, Bemidji, Brainerd. So Faribault, in a way, we're kind of our own worst enemy when we talk about our community and perceptions of safety. And don't get me wrong, like if you have a perception that you're not safe, that's just as bad as if you're not safe. But I'd rather have the perception than the reality. So I just think that there are too many things that get posted online that go viral about, you see a lot of, Faribault's not safe like it used to be. And you know what? I've seen the stats, folks. Faribault was a much more dangerous place in the mid-'90s than it is right now. I can talk to the police officers that are still on, that worked. Faribault was much busier for law enforcement than it is now. And I'm talking 20 years ago, because we have officers that worked then. And, we had more bars, we had more fights, we had more stabbings, we had more aggravated assaults than we do today. And sometimes I'm worried that our officers are bored. Which is a good thing to have, a good problem to have.
Well, for those officers who don't mind being bored, there is a...
Well, that gives them the opportunity to do other things, like engage with the community, to enforce traffic laws, to do those things that you can't do. Those are the things that go by the wayside when you're too busy to do anything. Ask a Minneapolis police officer if they're bored. They don't have time to catch their breath or eat a meal, let alone do some of the things that communities want your police officers to do, like deal with noise complaints and traffic and actually stop and say hi and interact with the community. We have the luxury of doing that here. And, I'd argue that that's how we want things. And that's how they are. So
you're fully staffed right now?
We are short one full-time sworn officer, but we're working on filling that vacancy, and we have a robust community service officer program with some young officers or young soon-to-be officers that we're waiting to take the next step, and they'll fill right into that position. So
it's kind of a step-up program.
It's like, I think we've had this conversation before. It's like Major League Baseball. You've got your farm teams, and then you've got the big league club, and the CSO program is a great feeder program for our officers. And we've hired, just off the top of my head, at least 5 or 6 officers on the department from the CSO program. So it's a good way. They get to know us, we get to know them, we get to see what type of employee they are, and then
how they handle certain situations. Yeah.
Yep, and they have familiarity. It helps them get through training. At least have an advantage in the early phases of training because they're familiar with the cars and the computer system and the radio and how we do things, and you bring them on board that way. So
fantastic. Heritage Days went well?
Heritage Days went well without incident. We had a little, there were a few, that kickoff event on Thursday in the park with the mayor's reception looked like it was going to be a downpour, and then the sun came out. So, no, things went really well. No issues as far as concerns or calls, or the parade went off without a hitch. It was a successful year. We had the Safe Summer Kickoff as well. That was June 4th. That's been almost 3 weeks, I guess. So
isn't that something? Where does the summer go?
Where does it go? Where does it go? I don't know. It's a big mystery.
Won't be long. We'll have National Night Out.
Are we calling it that? Yeah, it's National Night Out again. It used to be Night to Unite, National Night Out. I'm not sure what it is called this year, but the national organization keeps changing the name. But everybody knows it's the first week in August.
Mm-hmm. That's not that far off.
It really isn't. It's
a little over a month.
40 some days away, right? Unbelievable.
The summer just flies by.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but with yesterday being the summer solstice, I saw today that today is now like 5 seconds shorter in daylight than yesterday was. So we are on the long, steady decline to December.
Yeah.
So.
Then right around my birthday, we have the shortest day of the year.
Yep.
Don't even say it.
Yeah.
We're going to get our opening market report here, service of your KDHL Agri Boosters, and then we're going to come back and talk more with our fire chief, with our police chief, John Sherwin. He's sitting right in front of me with his police uniform on. How crazy am I? Anyway, you don't want to answer that one either. Our opening market report is a service of Werner Farm Seed Dundas, NorthlandFarmBuildings.com, Craig Keller at the Keller Insurance Agency.
Good morning. It's time for the market update here on this Monday morning on the Linder Farm Network. Joining us, Jim Empter, Van Awning Company, Alexandria. Well, Jim, mixed markets, corn a little lower, beans a little higher at this hour. What are you following?
Yeah, Linda, as you look around, obviously, with the Iran negotiations going on, that's keeping a negative catalyst around the grain markets. You might say, why? Well, if we have the Strait open and products are moving, there's hope that they will continue to come down on the inputs and that grain movement will occur and keep some pressure around the grain prices. When you couple that with pretty good weather, you look around, we've got good precipitation across most areas, maybe a little too much in some areas, but that's a tough story to run for a bull market. And when you couple that with just the circumstances around crop development, expectations are that conditions should improve this afternoon. That keeps the negative catalyst around the market. And then obviously the trifecta is the seasonal trends here this time of year generally point to lower prices. We typically see December corn, November soybeans, and September spring wheat fade down as we work into these late June and July days if weather conditions are good, and that we have. And again, you see that circumstances. And then if you want to add a fourth layer in there, Linda, there's the whole interest of managed money continuing to bail out of this market as a result of the Fed trying to attack inflation and giving some more hawkish tone that maybe they're going to have to increase rates as we work through the year, which scares investors on staying long commodities. So again, really, those are the circumstances that kind of drive prices lower. We'll see some surprises here ahead, I'm sure, Linda, that'll cause these markets to boost at some point. But again, we've got a softish tone, and that might remain until something new comes along here for these grain markets.
And the livestock futures today, it's higher for the cattle, a little lower for lean hogs. What are you following?
Well, Linda, we knew cash was strong. We knew supplies were tight. You just needed to give it a good bull report, and we got that out of the cattle on feed report on Thursday. Placements below expectations in an environment where, there were question marks whether they could be higher than what the market was even expecting. So that's got this feeder cattle off to the races, 3 cases of New World screwworm. But what the market's saying is, hey, we've had a plan for this. We prepared for this. This is execution now, and we're managing through that. And we can get these animals healthy if we can catch them early, and we've got the proper things in place. So the cattle market agreeing with that and trying to boost here with the stronger cash prices. Hogs, on the other hand, just nothing cooking there on that side of the market, Linda. We just cannot find the cash undertones to support the market, can't get enough demand to keep it going, and that's why you see a softer tone right now.
Thank you, Jim. Jim Empter, Van Awning Company, Alexandria. In Chicago, July corn 4.12 3/4 down to 4 3/4 now, with September down to 4 1/4 and December at 4.40 1/2, down 3 1/2. And July soybeans 11.23 1/4, up 1/2. August up 1 1/2. November 11.44, up 1 1/4. July live cattle, or rather June live cattle up 217, August up 252, August feeder cattle up 515, July lean hogs down 57, August down 42, the Dow is up 79. This is the Linder Farm Network.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered. Always online and always no reserve. It's your destination for construction or ag equipment ready to work. We even sell semis, trailers, and fleet equipment for your operation. Best part? It's free to join. Head to purplewave.com. That's purplewave.com. Sign up for a free account and start bidding today. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
Protect your livestock with AP and AgriAlert alarms. Older 3G and touchtone systems are at risk as networks move to 5G. Modern Ethernet and multi-carrier cellular keep your barns connected, even in rural areas. Monitor from your phone, tablet, or PC and get instant alerts if the power goes out. Use your existing wired sensors for accuracy, lower cost, and no battery worries. Busy with spring work? Rest easy knowing your barns are protected. Call 320-231-1470.
And that's our update.
AM Minnesota on the Mighty 920 KDHL.
All right, we've got the police chief with us. I got the name right, sort of. John Sherwin. He's the chief of police here in the city of Faribault. I was asked to ask you this question, John.
Okay.
This is not from my head. It's from somebody else's head.
Okay.
And it's kind of an interesting question. We all know gas prices have been incredibly high this year, which was obviously not predicted when the year began.
Yep,
How do you handle that with your budget?
Well, that's a great question because actually I'm working on our budget for next year,
right,
and trying to forecast what
you're going to do
prices. So we have a little bit of an advantage because the city of Faribault has, out at the Public Works, we have our own gas pumps, so they're able to buy in bulk, which I think helps a little bit with the price. But I obviously monitor what we spend. So the city buys in bulk, and then each department gets billed back like the cost of the gas per se. And we use a lot of gas. I mean, obviously our cars run 24/7, and with the equipment and things that are inside them, the cars really don't shut off. Like they idle pretty much when they're in service. And there's a number of reasons for that, like the sensitive equipment that we have, you have to keep climate controlled. Like, we carry Narcan, and we carry defibrillators, and we carry things that need to be they can't get too hot, they can't get too cold, just like the computer equipment in the car. So our cars idle a lot. We realize it. We don't like the fact that we have to do that, but that's the reality of modern policing. So I monitor what we pay, and just to give you an idea, I was kind of looking at our bills for the first 5 months of the year through May, and the January, February, March, we were around $6,000 in fuel costs for the department, and in May that cost went from about $6,000 to $11,000. So there's kind of a lag time, obviously we buy in bulk, so the cost of the fuel in the big tank is not reflective maybe of the daily price change at the pump. So we're going to be dealing with some higher prices for the next few months, regardless of what happens at the local pump, because we buy in bulk. So, but you can kind of, you try to forecast that. I always try to estimate a little bit high and be conservative in that regard in the high end. Because if you don't want to blow your budget, but I think this year we may blow our budget with fuel. But it's one of those things where we have cost savings in other areas. Like you asked me earlier, are we fully staffed? Well, actually, no, we have one opening right now. Well, we budget every year like we're fully staffed. So we have money in other areas that we can adjust the budget without increasing the budget, without dipping into reserves.
So you might not fill that, you're saying, that position.
We haven't. That position has been unfilled for 6 months. So when you look at what a position costs and you have 6 months where it's not filled, then you have a surplus of money in your personnel, but you may be negative in our fuel, but it balances out. So my goal is always to be within the budget. We've done that. We've delivered within our budget every year since I've been here, and in fact have returned money to the city that's put into the reserve fund. The council just had a big discussion on last Tuesday night about the current state of the city's reserve balances and other things. So, if we don't spend our budget, it's not like it's there is a benefit in the future because that money goes back into the reserves, which the city has a goal to keep somewhere between 40 to 50% of the annual budget within the reserve cash fund. This is kind of more of a question for your city council members, but or finance director. But that money isn't wasted per se. It helps us moving forward in the future. So
we have any electric vehicles in the fleet?
We don't, and there's good reason for that. The electric vehicles right now aren't at the capacity with our climate to be a viable police vehicle. As I mentioned, 24/7. When do you charge a vehicle that is may run 24 hours a day? Northfield had an electric vehicle that they purchased a few years ago, and that. Granted, EV technology has improved a little bit since they purchased that vehicle, but it's really not a viable patrol car. We also don't have the infrastructure at the police department to have banks of charging stations and things like that. So I think in the future it's something that should be considered and will be considered. But right now, with our climate, the range of the battery, the hard use that police vehicles undergo, it doesn't make a lot of sense right now to have electric vehicles for police fleet needs.
Yeah. When I was in the park Heritage Days after the parade, went down to get some food because they always have great food during Heritage Days in the park. Saves me from cooking.
Yep. Yep. Just like a crow at a dumpster. Yep.
There were a lot of officers down there. It was awesome. Yep. I got to visit with some of them about their e-bikes and how they like them.
Yeah, those are great. That's a great example of battery technology.
Foot doctor has asked me to get an e-bike because I love the bike, but he doesn't want me to put too much pressure on my foot. So he says, get an e-bike. Well, if you've priced e-bikes, you buy them for the department.
Yep. They're not cheap. No, you're right. But they do provide a great benefit. I mean, I'm so old that back in my day when I was a street cop, you actually had to just pedal to get somewhere. You couldn't use your thumb to get you there. But these bikes now are great because the officers can cover a lot of ground, and they still have the capacity to be a bicycle. But if you need to get somewhere quicker or to head up a hill, or like I said, to get somewhere where there's a call going. I can remember being on bike patrol many years ago and responding to a fight. I wasn't too far away, but trying to get there quick. And, of course, you're pedaling a bike, so by the time you get there, you're kind of out of breath, and you're like, I got to catch my breath before I even deal with the situation. So these e-bikes allow officers that opportunity to get there without exerting themselves and then be capable of intervening. So.
Can they cut through yards and that kind of thing?
Well, they can go anywhere a bike can go. I mean, it depends on what they need to do. But they certainly have time to get to. Yeah, they certainly have off-road capacity. And when we train officers on bike patrol, like they ride upstairs, they ride downstairs, they learn how to ride over small obstacles and to use the bike to navigate. We've had some great. If we had a blooper reel running when officers were in training, I actually witnessed someone go right over their handlebars onto the ground. But they're all wearing helmets, and you expect to fall when you're going through that kind of training. But they get very proficient at bike riding, and so they can take those bikes wherever they're comfortable.
Yeah, I can imagine it's. Well, you remember when they used to have horses all the time.
Well,
mounted possums.
Mounted unit. Yeah, I just read that Minneapolis still has a mounted unit. They're the only mounted police unit in the state, and looks like they might be done, is what I heard. But mounted units give you a great advantage. When I worked in Wichita, we had a mounted unit that would be out on the weekend sometimes at the bar entertainment district, and I'll tell you, a horse can move a lot of people out of the way. They back those horses in and make them kind of walk sideways, and people just have to part like the Red Sea. So they're a great effective tool for crowd control, but they're also not really practical for a lot of police departments with the care, the upkeep, the cost, and then just having enough officers that have an interest in that. I mean, you're not going to just put some random officer that's not familiar with horses on horseback. And, you know, a department like ours, of our size, I don't know if we have anyone who would be comfortable riding a horse, let alone using one for police duties. So
you weren't in this mounted patrol?
Oh, no. Horses to me are, I like them, I respect them, but I don't know anything about them. Other than I've almost been bitten a few times, and I don't know why. So, not a horse person, Gordy.
Okay. Anything you wanted to get the word out on today?
Well,
I see you're wearing a 250 button.
Yep. We all of our officers have the 250 pins on. We've got the 4th coming up in the 250th anniversary celebrations coming soon. Actually, when are we? 2 weeks? 2 weeks? Less than
weekend.
2 weeks.
Yeah. Not this
weekend,
but
we
want
weekend. You know. So with that, you know, it turns into fireworks sales and things like that. So remember, if you can buy them at a tent, they're legal. If you have to go to Wisconsin, you probably shouldn't be shooting them. We do get a ton of fireworks complaints. This is the time of year for that.
Yeah, they're starting to shoot in my neighborhood already.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, we will follow up. We have a couple of officers that are assigned kind of a special project for the summer, our school resource officers, and they'll be handling those repeat nuisance fireworks complaints that we get. Expect people to maybe receive a follow-up visit. You know, it's sometimes it's hard for officers working at night when these are happening, because we have you may have 6 fireworks calls, but then you've got a domestic, and you've got a DUI, and you've got a fight at a bar, and you've got so it's very hard for those officers to get there at times and actually see the violation in progress. But we're going to assign some of that follow-up for our school resource officers that are working Monday through Friday. For the most part, their hours vary a bit. But
I always tell Dusty when he's on, he was on last week talking about fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell him, leave the fireworks to the profession. It blows my mind, the little ones running with sparklers in their hands.
Yeah, I mean, there's
1,200 degrees.
It's not. It's the. A lot of times, it's the mix of the alcohol, the fireworks, the noise, the later at night, close proximity to other homes. You know, those are the things that cause us to be called. People just aren't. They lose their mind, right? Having a good time is one thing, but when it leads to people not thinking through consequences and outcomes and potential outcomes.
And we have a very good fireworks display here in Faribault.
And every year, I mean, you could talk to the folks at the ER. They receive fireworks injuries. I know last year we had a couple were pretty serious, disfiguring type injuries. Where
people lose their eyes.
Just right here in Faribault, showing up at the ER and us getting called as an advisory. But you know, we don't get called for every injury, just the ones that are maybe a little more serious. So it's just something to keep in mind. I don't know. You reach a certain age like me, and I have not really any interest in lighting anything on fire. You know,
you're not a pyrotechnic guy.
No, I'm not. And then I'm an America guy, obviously, with a pin and whatnot. You'll see every police officer should be wearing one of these. And you know, I wanted to do that to celebrate, but I'm not a fireworks guy. I'm enjoy the 4th and the freedoms and grill in my backyard, but you're not going to see me spending money to blow things up.
I'm in the same boat. I don't want to lose a finger. I almost lost my big toe. Thank you, sir, for coming in.
You're welcome.
That was very nice of you to be very flexible. And when you were busy last Thursday, tomorrow jury visits with folks from the Rice County Fair. Yep, that's just around the corner.